Welcome into the college football every game on the board. Part number 4 with our cleanup hitter here, Robbie Veno. Robbie, welcome in. How you feeling?
I am feeling good, great. Every time you do that intro, you gotta love that. I'm sure the viewers and the listeners love it as much as we do, Drew. But it's a great time of the week for us, as always. Every game on the board, we're going to go through our little part of this. I guess what is it, 4 or 5 part segment that we do show that we do here. We'll get through our set of games here and hopefully give out some good info.
Well, thank you, Robbie, for that. It gets the people going. It's what people always
Yeah.
say when they see me out in like a sports book in Vegas. They're like, "Oh, welcome in, Drew." And so I just keep it going, Robbie. And I always appreciate people commenting below if you like it. If you like the content, please smash this like button. Feel free to comment below. Follow Robbie on Twitter at Rob Veno Sports. I'm on Twitter at Drew Martin Betts. We got 375, 376 down to 405, 406 here. For part number 4, Wager Talk Live odds screen. We're going down in numerical order. This is the section we're doing right now as a all Texas battle to start us off here, Robbie. 1 o'clock Eastern kick. 375, 376, UTSA and Rice. We get the Roadrunners, minus 13-point road favorites, 56.5 being the total. You liking anything with the Roadrunners and Owls to kick us off, Robbie?
Yeah, we're going to start a few of these, Drew, just with quick weather updates because weather's questionable all across the country here this week. So just want to make the viewers informed a little bit about what we're seeing here. This one's going to have a lot of rain in Houston, Texas. We saw the total come down a little bit this morning immediately upon the report. I'm showing about 91 to 96% chance of rain for the entire first half. Second half, it lightens up a bit, but still should be rainy, 70 to 77% chance of rain with a wind miles per hour of 14 to 15 miles per hour. So a little wet, a little windy. Weather could be an issue here in what is a 12 noon Central Time start for UTSA and Rice. Rice at 5-5, looking to get bowl eligible. So certainly they need one of their last two. This would be a big one to get. It would probably assure them a bowl game, Drew. Sometimes 6-win teams get left behind, but if you beat UTSA, I think you get in if you're Rice. Power ratings made this game Texas San Antonio minus 9.5. Number here, like you said, sits at 13, and totals come down. The motivation for the other side here, the Roadrunners, Drew, is that if they win this game, they clinch home field in the CUSA championship game. They have no losses in league right now. Everybody else has 2. The only way there could be a tiebreaker is if UTSA loses their final 2 games. So a win here does it for them. So you've got motivation on both sides. Bowl game on one end, conference championship home field on the other end. For UTSA, they've been primarily a passing team all season long. But in this type of weather, it's going to help them. I think that they've found a ground game the last 3 weeks. They've got a freshman running back by the name of Kavorian Barnes, who in his last 3 of his last 4 has put up 100-plus yards. It gives them kind of a two-headed monster change of pace backfield. Barnes and starter Brendan Brady, sort of one of those, thunder and lightning, however you want to label it, type duos, with Barnes being the explosive guy. A couple of TD runs last week, over 25 yards. The last 3 games for UTSA, they've taken a lot of pressure off of quarterback Frank Harris by running for 257 against North Texas, one of the better teams in the league, 209 against UAB, and 256 last week against Louisiana Tech. So if they don't have to rely on the passing game in this weather, it would be good for them. Rice runs the ball pretty well, too. They're a balanced offense. Their defense, shoddy at times, gives up more yardage than less yardage than UTSA's, but they give up more points. So that's kind of a wash, Drew. Looking at the total, if your totals players, Rice is 7-3 to the over this year. In conference, their games are averaging 61 a pop. UTSA 6-4 over for the full year. In conference, their totals are averaging 62 a pop. We're looking at, 55.5 or 56 right now. So I think weather is the reason why it's dove down. Keep an eye on it, because if things do clear up, this could be an over game.
Rice in a bowl game, that would be wild. I don't remember the last time the Owls made a bowl game. As we head to the Pac-12 up next, 377, 378, making our way down in rotation order, 2 o'clock Eastern. We're heading to the Pac-12. I'm not sure if Arizona is in the Mountain West time zone or Pacific. I don't think that they actually change time zones, so that would put it I don't know, either 11 a.m. or noontime local kick here, Robbie. -4, that's the Cougars as the road favorite. 63 being the total in Tucson.
Yeah, I think they stay Pacific all year round, Drew. So that would make it an 11 a.m. start for Washington State at Arizona. No chance of rain here. Weather conditions are going to be real good. Just the start time that might be a little. I don't know. It's hard to guess which side it would affect, if any, but it could be a factor here starting this early in the morning. I'm sure Arizona, and it's interesting, Drew, because Arizona State at home as well has an early start time, a morning start time this week. So both Arizona schools, both home, both with early start times. I don't know what the reason for that is, but very interesting. Two of the fastest paced offenses in the country. Washington State hasn't come to life until a little bit recently. I thought they would be much, much better with Cam Ward from Incarnate Word to transfer over with his head coach, Eric Morris, who's the offensive coordinator here, Air Raid disciple, but it hasn't materialized for a few reasons. One being a banged up wide receiver core, but lately been better for Washington State. Last week, they had 28 in the first half and really just ran out the clock in the second half. There's a big defensive discrepancy between these two teams. Some quick numbers. Washington State allows 2.3 yards per carry less. Pass completion-wise, Arizona gives up 71% completions to their opponents. That's a big number against Cam Ward and company, who are starting to get things together a little bit right now. Yards per play, Arizona gives up near 7. Washington State gives up a little over 5. Points a game, Arizona giving up 37.2. Washington State 19.8. The 37.2 is interesting, Drew, because opposing defenses haven't scored any points against Arizona. It's all offense. Touchdowns outside the red zone, if you're going to bet over here, Arizona's allowed 14 of those. Big play opportunities for you if you're playing the Wildcats. Arizona's going to get their share here, Drew, unless they turn the ball over. There's only 3 times on their schedule this year where they didn't score over 22 points. And the common denominator is they turn the ball over 3 to 4 times in all 3 of those ball games. If they hang on to it, they average 36 a game. If they lose it a little bit, it goes down to 22 or less. So I don't know that Washington State, they've been a good defense, but if they can't force turnovers, Arizona's going to score. I think Washington State will score. I'm still going to take a look at the over in this game, despite the fact that it starts so early in the AM. That could be a help. It could be a hindrance, but I'll treat it as a help.
Sure, could see a lot of scoring for sure, Rob, as we had 9 o'clock Eastern kick to the state of Colorado State at Air Force. We are seeing the Falcons running the triple option, -22-point home favorites, 43.5 being the total in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, I'll be quick on this one, Drew. It's hard, like it was last week, right? Whenever people see Air Force -20 plus, they get a little jumpy because you're not going to get that many possessions in the game. However, last week's game was against New Mexico. We had that game on our show, and we went through the miserable numbers offensively that UNM has posted since they changed offensive coordinators. It got no better last week. Air Force did cover that big number. Here against Colorado State, it might be a little bit different. Colorado State is showing some signs of life, at least as far as being somewhat competitive is concerned. And in this price range, you'd really have to get blown out, figuring that each team might have 9 possessions in this ball game. So I could see an Air Force win. I could see a Colorado State cover because the back half of the season, they've been more competitive. Weather, going to be cold everywhere. Out west, other than the Pacific coast. But here in the mountains, 22 to 26 degrees, no winds to speak of. I think Air Force wins. I'm just not so sure they cover this big number against the Colorado State team, which, like I say, has been more competitive last few weeks.
Robbie, next game up, we got Oregon State and Arizona State, speaking towards the Territorial Cup next week. That's Arizona State, Arizona. You talked about it earlier kick here in Tempe, 54 being the total, -8. That's the Beavers on the road against the Sun Devils.
Yeah, more good weather. 65, 70 degrees in this game. No wind to speak of, so the offenses won't be hindered by anything weather-wise. Interesting, Drew, that, I went through some statistical numbers only to find that in Pac-12 conference games only this year, Oregon State's the number one rated defense in multiple categories. That's amazing to me. I know they've been better, but I just didn't realize how much better. And I guess the rest of the league, when we start going through teams, is made up of porous defenses. But OSU, number one defense statistically in the league against this Arizona State offense. Interesting matchup because the last.
It's like we lost Robbie. It's right at an interesting matchup because the last time something these
got
two
me?
played, I guess. Yeah, I got you now, Robbie. So Oregon State, Arizona State.
Yeah, and real quick, Drew, the point about tempo here, Arizona State, the last 3 games, has tried to go up tempo, increasingly up tempo. But Oregon State ranks 128 in the nation out of 131 teams. They're the third, fourth slowest paced team in the country. Run a play every 29.6. Very methodical. That could mess with Arizona State a little bit. Last week, Washington State, a fast offense, tried to slow it down, and it hurt them a little bit. Arizona State finished that game. I think the final was 28-18 after it being 28-0 Washington State. So I think Oregon State can control this one. The point total is very low. However, if Oregon State does what they do and just grinds clock and plays defense against Arizona State, Arizona State switched quarterbacks again last week. They went back to Emory Moorhead, the original starter. He played the second half and really put together whatever you want to call that comeback to get to 28-18. I'm not sure I could play Arizona State in any way, shape, or form. And right now, Oregon State's in that Pac-12 mix to get to the Pac-12 title game. So there's certainly a ton of motivation there.
Yeah, should be a good one out there. Emory Jones, was it, that's coming back as the quarterback?
Emory Jones, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I got him mixed with the Boston College quarterback, Moorhead.
Yeah, for sure. We got Mountain West up next here, Robbie. San Jose State and Utah State. Competitively priced game. Pick the winner at a lot of sports books here. 51 the total in Logan, Utah.
Yeah, that was disappointing last week, Drew, out of San Jose State. They race out to a 14-0 lead at San Diego State, and there was a lot of money on San Jose last week. Nice defensive front like they had a couple of years ago, play the run real well. But that 14-0 lead disappeared over the course of the next 28 minutes in that game. San Diego State outscored San Jose State 38-0. Trying to think in my head when the last time San Diego State outscored anybody 38-0 in 28 minutes. That was an FBS team. It doesn't happen often, but San Diego State outgained San Jose 425-223. That's a 202-yard difference. And San Jose State allowed their season high 43 points in that game. Their defense, which was the absolute anchor of that team, I'd say the passing game was their second best asset, but their defense certainly number one. The last 2 weeks, they've been lit up a little bit. 425 and 468 total yards. Those totals, what's interesting, Drew, is they come against Colorado State and San Diego State, not two teams that you would consider to be 400-plus yard offenses, but they both did it against San Jose. That's kind of a red flag where this team is concerned right now. Utah State, 4-2 in the Mountain West, 4-1 straight up in their last 5. Maybe a little overpriced because they're only 2-3 against the spread, despite that 4-1 straight up record. The last 4 games they've played, 3 were against weaklings: Colorado State, New Mexico, Hawaii. Those 3 teams have a combined 6-25 straight up record. However, it's not like San Jose State's been any good in their last 4 games. I just went over their last 2. If you push it back 2 more, you're going to find that San Jose is 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games. And here's what they've missed the closing line by, Drew. These aren't close. Closing line, San Jose State has lost by 14 points, 17.5 points, 11.5 points, and 16 points. Those are way, way off the odds makers' closing number. There's something going on there with San Jose State, not quite sure. They're already bowl eligible, so maybe they've just taken their foot off the gas pedal. Utah State has 5 wins. If you're looking for motivation, this would be their 6th. And if they don't get it here, they have to try and get it at Boise State next week. I don't think they want to try and get it that way, going up to Boise on the blue turf. They'd rather get it at home here. So I think they'll be 100% focused in this game. Listen, their pass defense has to hold up, and they have to be able to pass protect. If they can do those things adequately, they might be, an upset winner here in this game.
Like that, Robbie. Good find. San Jose State, possibly overpriced of recent. Good stuff. Plus Utah State going for the for bowl eligibility here with Boise on deck. Yeah, you always got to wonder that. Like the college kids, are they looking ahead and going, we might have trouble next week. We got to get it here. I think they do, Robbie.
I agree. I don't think they want to, have it come down to that game against Boise. So I'd look for a big effort. Whether they win or not's another story, but I think you'll get the effort out of them.
We got a battle of Catholic universities up next, 2:30 Eastern, 385, 386. Boston College at Notre Dame. We are seeing the Fighting Irish minus 21-point home favorites, 43.5 being the total. We're seeing the Irish here, 3-touchdown favorite. Touchdown Jesus. You think they're going to cover it by 3 touchdowns here, Veno?
Well, I'll say this. Here's where I tried to combine Emory Jones and Emmett Moorhead and make the Arizona State quarterback Emory Moorhead. Boston College's redshirt freshman quarterback backup Emmett Moorhead has played the last 2 games because Phil Jurkovec got hurt. And Moorhead's been good, Drew. Last week, 29 of 48, 330 yards, 3 TDs, 2 picks. But it was against NC State at NC State next to Clemson. And I guess you could argue that NC State might be the best defense in the league. And BC went in there and won that game 21-20 behind a redshirt freshman quarterback in his second start. His 2 starts, the last 2 games BC has played, 60% completions, 660 passing yards, 7 TDs, 2 interceptions, and 52 points for the Eagles. So they might have found something here in this quarterback. Whether, again, there's a situation here in South Bend, Midwest, like the Mountain West, little bit under the weather this week, cloudy with snow showers by the fourth quarter. Won't really snow, at least according to the time frame I looked at, until maybe end of third, start of fourth quarter. It's going to be 12 to 13 degrees in this place, 33 to 38% chance of snow in the second half of this game. It could be a factor. Could it be a BC letdown spot, Drew? I'm not sure. They just had that miracle win against NC State last week. Huge underdog, win outright. NC State, I think you have to remember, also had a talented but very inexperienced quarterback at the helm of their team that could have played a role in that loss. MJ Morris, not especially effective last week. I want to make this quick point before we move on to the next game about Notre Dame's offense. People are going to look at the last 4 games Notre Dame's played, and they're going to see Notre Dame has scored 35, 35, 41, and 44 points. That's a boatload of points. 4 games in a row, 35 plus. And it would lead you to believe that Notre Dame has turned some kind of a corner offensively in the last 4 games. However, being as curious as I am, I had to go into those 4 games and break them down and see exactly what they've done because they haven't put any total yardage up, Drew. It's hard to score that many points and only average 368 yards a game. Those are, those point totals add up to like over 400 if you're doing it right offensively. For Notre Dame, in the last 4 games, they've scored 25 times. Of those 25 scores, 16 of them, or to put it in percentage terms, 64% of those scores over the last 4 games were drives, short field drives of 55 yards or less, or scored by special teams, or scored by the defense. So there's only really 9 legitimate drives in the last 4 weeks. If you're talking about good offense, Notre Dame has certainly capitalized on great field position. They've capitalized on block punts, INT returns. We saw 2 of those in the Clemson game, and they put up big numbers. I don't know in these conditions, Drew, that they're putting up 35 against a BC defense that's been real good this year. And the way Moorhead is playing right now, maybe Boston College, found a little spark. 20.5 to me looks big. My power ratings say it's not, but I kind of think it is. So I would probably side with the underdog here plus the points.
The band is on the field. Stanford and Cal up next. 387-388, 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific kick here. 46.5 being the total. We're seeing the Cal Golden Bears -5-point home favorites in Berkeley, California, Robbie.
One of the lousiest games we'll talk about, Drew, but it may turn out to be the most cash productive. Both of these teams are train wrecks right now, and neither is going to a bowl game. So this is the bowl game for both of them. Now, Cal this week, head coach Justin Wilcox, 4 days ago, I think he fires his OC, Bill Musgrave, longtime NFL coordinator, NFL quarterback, OC at Cal for almost 3 full seasons. He almost made it 3 seasons, but got fired. Cal's 0-6 straight up in their last 6 games. But their offense has done some nice things against lousy defenses, 35 points and 469 yards against USC, 402 yards against Oregon, 599 yards against Arizona. But then they have those games where they don't do anything, like last week against Oregon State, which is why Musgrave got fired, and only 21 and 20 points against Colorado and Washington. We know Washington can't play any D. We know Colorado's a miserable football team. Cal only got 297 yards against Colorado. So the inconsistencies got Musgrave fired. The defense they're going to play here is outrageously bad as of late. Stanford has been outscored in their last 3 games, 132-34. It's an average final score of 44-11, 3 weeks straight for Stanford. They've allowed 514 total yards or more in 3 straight games. Their offense has only scored an average of 13 points per game in their last 5. They haven't hit higher than 16 in those 5. However, this is what gets tricky here, Drew. This is crazy. I just told you how bad their offense has been last 5 games. 7 of their 8 Pac-12 games this year inside the conference have all resulted in total scores of 49 or better. You look at this game, the total is 46.5. So even though Stanford's not scoring, all their games are going over 46.5, which is what we're asked to do this week. If you want to bet over, the average final score against a Pac-12 opponent in a Stanford game this year is 56.6 points. That's 10 over what the asking price is here this week. Cal has played 4 straight games that have all landed 48 or better total-wise. They're 5-2 in 7 Pac-12 games this year over this 46.5 number. It looks to me like there's a huge overcompensation on this total because no matter how bad you want to say both of these 2 teams are, their games still seem to go over 46.5. Last point I want to make here real quick. At Monday's practice, and this is why it pays to research these things. At Monday's practice, Cal quarterback Jake Plummer said that the practice structure was a little bit different after the firing of their offensive coordinator. And of course, reporters try to dig and find out, who's going to call plays, what are you going to do, are you going to change offenses? Plummer did give a couple of hints here. Plummer said that during practice, they worked on some different things to help generate offense, and they're implementing a few new wrinkles for Stanford to help produce more offense. The play calling is going to be a collaborative effort, according to head coach Justin Wilcox. He will not designate an offensive coordinator in the interim or a play caller in the interim, just a collaborative effort. But like you said to start with, the band is on the field, the big game. And what better place to interject or insert some of these new offensive wrinkles that Stanford hasn't seen on tape? Like I said, Drew, it might be a lousy game, but I'm starting to think that over 46.5 in good weather with the numbers that I rattled off there might be a good play.
All right, Robbie, we're going to have to go into up-tempo here to finish it off as we stay in the Conference of Champions. Colorado and Washington up next. Huskies -31-point home favorites, 64 being the total in the Pacific Northwest. Saturday night, Rob.
Bad as Colorado is, real quick, Drew, it's a lot of points. Washington's off the huge win. There's this kind of a flat spot. I'm not sure it'll be totally flat because Washington's still alive for Pac-12 title game hopes. But 31 points with their defense, I'm not in the business of laying that many. Power ratings show they should be 28. I think they'll win, but I don't know that I could bet them to cover.
Like it, Robbie. We got next game up here in the Rose Bowl, USC at UCLA. We're seeing Trojans -2, -2.5 as the quote-unquote road favorite here, Robbie. 76 being the total. I'm liking the Bruins. You liking anything here?
Yeah, a couple of things I'll point out quick, Drew, without pointing one way or the other. But USC for situational stuff. Lincoln Riley, first-year head coach, knows the importance of this game. Chip Kelly knew it the first year he got to UCLA, right? He didn't win it, I don't think, right away, but he did win it last year, 62-33. And Lincoln Riley knows there's a little revenge angle. We can't always incorporate revenge. We might be able to do that here. So for Lincoln Riley, this is the game you're hired to win. As far as conference play is concerned, and you're hired to get revenge on UCLA. However, real quick, a drawback for USC, that injury to Travis Dye last week, everything running back, could affect them. We know UCLA can run the football. We know UCLA can score. Totals at 76. Wow, Drew. I don't know. Should be a really good game. Situationally, I kind of like USC. Fundamentally, I kind of like UCLA.
We're seeing the Pac-12 take center stage here Saturday night as well. Utah at Oregon, 60 being the total. We're seeing the Utes -2 to as high as -3, depending where we're shopping, as the road favorite. I've heard Bo Nix a little bit banged up here, Rob.
And I'll say real quick to save time here, Drew. I, and Tony Mejia on the Best Damn College Football Show yesterday, we went through this game, all three of us, with opinions on it. So if you want to go back through the archives here for the Best Damn College Football Show, get my analysis, get Tony's analysis, get Drew's take on that game.
Sure. If you're watching on the Wager Talk YouTube channel, it's just down a little bit. Best Damn College Football Show. It should be a good one in Eugene. We get Florida and Vanderbilt up next here, Rob. Battle for high academic stature in the SEC. -14. That's the Gators on the road. 57.5 the total in Nashville.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel a little Billy Napier momentum, Drew. I don't know about you. We talk about this guy a lot. We both, I think, share a high opinion of his coaching ability. And it seems like he's got this ship directed in somewhat of an ascending position right now, just by looking at results of their last couple of games. Clark Lee, the head coach for Vanderbilt, though, has the same thing going on at Vanderbilt, a team full of believers. All of a sudden, a big win at Kentucky last week, a game they would usually blow, but they found a way to win. And I saw him interviewed, and he likes the status of his team right now. So 2 teams in the SEC East heading a little bit upward. I still think I would lean Florida, Drew. They're way too explosive. And I think that Napier's figuring out, his rotations on defense, or the personnel that he can play on defense. It was a bad tackling team last year. As I watch them, they seem to be getting a little better on the defensive side. So I guess I'll lean Florida, but it's a tough number to lay because Vanderbilt as well is playing better right now.
Okay, yeah, Vanderbilt. Actually, they got an outside shot at a bowl game, Robbie. I mean, really outside. I guess what their next opponent would be Tennessee. So, yeah, they're going to have 2 big upset. If I have that correct, I might not, but I'm pretty sure Vanderbilt and Tennessee play each other the last game of the season. So they're going to have to beat Florida, Tennessee. They are 4-6 though. Kind of surprising there. And the Gators sitting at 6-4, they're already in, but having to win by 2 touchdowns on the road. Interesting handicap there. Arguably the biggest game of the weekend here, Robbie. Texas Christian, that's TCU at Baylor, -2.5. That's TCU at most sports books. 58 being the total. They're 10-0. They're number 4 in the college football playoff rankings. They're 9-1 against the spread, and they're still not getting any love from the betting markets here, Robbie. What are we thinking in Waco, Texas on Saturday?
I'm thinking that last week's game against Texas, Drew, score-wise, point-wise, was a little bit of a mirage. We know TCU's been up and down the field all season long, and then last week they showed they could win a defensive battle on the road against a really good team. But in reality, their defense is not that good. It can be had. It's been had a lot of times this season. And Baylor's defense under Dave Aranda hasn't been quite the same, but their offense with Blake Shapen has been really good. I think from the TCU perspective, this gets back into their wheelhouse with a little more high scoring here. I thought that this total was overcompensated for when it opened, 56.5. Feel like that's too low. Now, I can't get inside the heads of the TCU kids, and they may be feeling the pressure of now being number 4 in the college football play. I don't think they thought they were going to be here to start the year. I mean, obviously it's a goal, but I don't think anybody thought they would be here. And this group of kids hasn't been in these pressure type situations. That could lend itself to a play on Baylor, who, in my estimation, is always a live dog. They got embarrassed by K-State down here a couple games ago. Or maybe last week. I might be even losing track of weeks,
Yeah,
but they did get
last week
embarrassed.
Baylor got blown out. Yeah.
Yeah, by Kansas State. So there's a redemption factor in this game. Sidewise, I would lean Baylor. Total-wise, I would lean over.
Mississippi and Arkansas up next, 7:30 Eastern in Fayetteville. 64 being the total, -2.5. That's the Rebels as the short road favorite here, Rob.
Yeah, Arkansas has just been decimated, Drew, by injuries. And they came up with a huge effort last week, right? Lose that game 13-10, but cover the number with a late touchdown. I just don't know. To me, Mississippi State's the better team in all facets here. I think they're better at the quarterback spot because KJ Jefferson has played hobbled for the better part of this season. I think they're better offensive line. I think they're better running game. The stuff that Arkansas is known to be good at, I think Mississippi's even better at. And then when you add in the passing game, and I know Jackson Dart hasn't been the most accurate, but their wide receiving core, I think, is better than Arkansas's. Their defense, front seven, I think, is better than Arkansas. So if the numbers come down here, Drew, I think it's in a reasonable spot. Mississippi to win by a field goal. I know it's on the road, but I just think the personnel is better on that side of the ball.
All right, Robbie, good stuff. Guys, check out Rob Veno, wagertalk.com. He obviously knows his college football right here, a mainstay on the every game on the board. His NBA is also heating up as well. Last 11 days, 68% win percentage. That's 15-7. And since 2018, he's the #1 NBA handicapper at wagertalk.com by return on investment. So check him out there, guys. He knows his college football, NBA, NFL as well. As we're heading down the list. Couple games left here to finish it off. South Alabama, Southern Miss, 401, 402, 3:30 Eastern, -8, -7.5. That's USA. The Jaguars as the road favorite. 45 the total in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Robbie.
Yeah, how great is it to see MAC quarterbacks transfer and then rejuvenate Sunbelt programs and lead them to the top of the standings. Such is the case with Carter Bradley, the quarterback for South Alabama. South Alabama's been a good play all season long. Southern Miss has been very, very difficult out. Let's put it that way for the most better part of this season, especially on the defensive side. They haven't had a lot going for them offensively. In this game, though, Drew, they run into a defense that I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball against. The money seems to feel the same way because the game's pushed from 6.5 opener all the way to 7.5, and I see one straight 8 out there in Las Vegas. But South Alabama has a lot of ways to score, and the defense is held up all season long. I just think that the struggle for Southern Miss, unless they're aided by some turnovers, by special teams or something, I don't think they can keep up here. So it looks to me to be somewhere in like the 27-13 vicinity for South Alabama. I think I'd lean that way.
Let's talk some bedlam here. Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. We are seeing the Sooners -7, -7.5 at home, 66 being the total. Oklahoma State at Oklahoma in Norman, Oklahoma, Robbie.
The indications I get, and we talked a little bit off air because I was trying to get a firm update on Spencer Sanders. From what I'm seeing here, Drew, as we were talking, Spencer Sanders is going to be a go on Saturday against Oklahoma. And I guess the total would indicate that, not necessarily the line, because Oklahoma has been the team that's taken the money here. But Spencer Sanders in the lineup, there's no way I couldn't play this thing any which way but over. 66.5 here between these two. The back end being the linebacking core and the secondary, the pass defense and the pass rush of Oklahoma State has been brutal all season long. Dylan Gabriel could have a field day. And we know Oklahoma has been picked on time and time again by good offenses, which Oklahoma State is when Spencer Sanders is at the helm. Yes, he makes a couple mistakes. Generally, though, his mistakes lead to opponents' points, which could be good for total. So give me over 66 in that game as long as Sanders is your starter, which it looks like he's going to be.
And Rob, I just looked it up on the Oklahomian newspaper here. And when asked about the Bedlam matchup Saturday night, Spencer Sanders replies, "Ain't no question about it." So if we're taking his word for it, he will be playing injury-wise. the Oklahoma State quarterback there, Spencer Sanders. We got last game on the board. And guys, remember, we did it a little bit out of order because of people traveling for the holidays. So we have the last section covered by mid-major Matt, but this will be the last game we cover in terms of time-wise of when we're recording it on the Wager Talk YouTube channel, wherever you're downloading your podcast at. Every game on the board, and also Drew Martin Betts YouTube channel. We do it live on. We upload it to the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Last game here, guys. Wisconsin and Nebraska minus 10.5. That is the Badgers as the road favorite. Sub 40 total here in Lincoln. 39.5 is what I'm seeing. What are you liking in this one? Big Ten action, Robbie.
Yeah, frigid conditions, as we said, Drew. A lot of these Big Ten games, a lot of these Mountain West games going to have some really, really cold temperatures. Nothing that Wisconsin wouldn't be used to. Nothing that the Cornhuskers wouldn't be used to. I'm going to just, that was a disappointing loss for Wisconsin last week against Iowa. I actually thought Wisconsin would win that game. They did not. They did everything, but they held Iowa to 146 total yards and lost the game, amazingly. But that's Wisconsin football, I guess. How they react coming off of that, Drew, which was still this Big 12 West race is still crazy, or excuse me, Big 10 West race is still crazy, but Wisconsin shot themselves in the foot last week, so I don't know where they're at psychologically for this game, but I'll say this. I'm going to give you a number. Since Casey Thompson, the quarterback of Nebraska, went down, their offense without him has resulted in 18 punts, 2 interceptions, 2 end-of-half kneel downs, 1 end-of-game kneel down, a fumble, a turnover on downs, 1 touchdown, and 3 field goals. Brutal, brutal, brutal. Against a Wisconsin defense that, like I say, just held Iowa to 146 total yards. Now Casey Thompson will check him out this week to see if he goes or not, but Nebraska just hopeless on offense right now. And I would think that if Wisconsin comes with any motivation, this is not a number that should be very difficult to cover, even though it's going to be cold and possibly windy there in Lincoln this Saturday.
Robbie Veno at Rob Veno Sports on Twitter. Always doing a great job on the every game on the board. Robbie, we got a most confident play. We're going to ask him. We got 3 already in the books from Teddy Covers, Kelly in Vegas, as well as mid-major Matt. So watch those sections, guys, for 3 free bets there that they are getting down on for their most confident play. Robbie, first want to ask you, next week we got Thanksgiving on Thursday. So do you have time to record this earlier in the week next week?
I'll have to it'll be difficult because I'm going to be traveling as of Monday to family in Connecticut. So, we'll work that out, Drew. We'll see if it can work itself out. I hope it can.
Okay. Robbie, do you have a most confident play for us, man, on the slate?
Drew, with all these high totals all over the place and all these games, I think that the Oklahoma State game is underpriced. 66 in that game, those 2 teams, Spencer Sanders, I think it hits in the mid-70s. I think we see something in the vicinity of 38, 35 up and down the field. So give me that over 66, Oklahoma State. Bedlam in its truest form, Drew. Up and down the field, lots of points. I'll take it as the best bet for the show.
All right, Robbie. Well, thanks as always. Guys, please smash that like button. Feel free to comment below. Thanks for joining us in the chat box as well at Drew Martin Betts on YouTube and also on Twitter at Rob Veno Sports and Wager Talk YouTube. Upload now. Smash that like button. Robbie, if I don't see you before Thanksgiving, if we can't get it, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and cash those tickets, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Same to you, Drew. We'll do our best to make it work. But if I don't see you, same to you. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
All right, guys. Enjoy the games and have a fun, safe weekend. We'll talk next week. Thanks for tuning in.